Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich, who's been covering the capital for over 30 years.
Yep, and I'm still alive to talk about it. But over the years I've made a lot of friends and seen a lot of the revolving door of elected officials going through, and one of our guests today is the Greene County District Attorney, Joe Stanzione. Welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Well, Greene County's a beautiful county. I tell you, there was one time I worked with WHUC in Hudson, and they covered both Columbia and Greene County. So they had me do for a year, every week, a Greene County report.
Oh, nice.
And I had to do a 2-minute special about Greene County. And I did, between banking and the town of Lexington and the Russian mosque or Russian church that's in Lexington, right?
Right. Yeah.
And there were other aspects, beautiful aspects to Greene County that I got to know, putting all these reports together. So it was a lot of fun.
Something about Mark. They always put Greene and Columbia County, I guess not in DA, your position, but in a lot of other social services, like you're saying.
It's true, and Greene and Columbia counties are basically referred to as the twin counties. We share a college, Columbia Greene Community College,
sure.
Which is an excellent college, and Greene County just has so much to offer. It really is a beautiful county. In the west part of the county, we have the mountains. We have Hunter Mountain, we have Windham Mountain, where we have skiing. In the wintertime, snow tubing, snowboarding. Summertime, we have the hiking, the swimming with North Lake, South Lake. And then on the east side of Greene County, we have the Hudson River. And that's just a beautiful river. There's a lot of boating and water skiing.
So what's your favorite thing to do?
Well, I like the Hudson River, actually. I like the valley. I live down in the valley. I grew up in the valley, right in the village of Catskill. And I just love the, whether it be being on the river, boating, or just visiting the parks, the various municipalities or townships. Are
you a camper?
I'm not a camper, no.
Tenting and all that? No.
I did that. I did that when I was younger, but.
How old are you now?
58.
58.
Right.
Okay. Well, you don't look it. That's good.
Wow.
What's your? Is this your dream job, being DA? Is this what everything you expected it to be? Being that it's your 3rd year now out of a 4-year term.
It is. It is. I enjoy the job.
Why is it your dream job? You like prosecuting people? Like putting them under that big spotlight and grilling them?
Well, I do.
The 1920s movies, you know.
I think it's a little different, though, because when you prosecute, there's so much you can do to benefit the community, to benefit people. People have this notion that prosecution is simply coming down as a hammer and putting people in prison.
Yeah.
That's not really what prosecution's all about. Prosecution is about doing the right thing. And prosecution is important because it's important for the person who's in charge of prosecuting to determine what the right thing is. Whether you have a particular case where you believe the individual should be in prison and you really have to prosecute zealously, or you have to prosecute a person because you need a grip on that person, that he deserves a conviction, but maybe he doesn't deserve a prison sentence. Maybe that's a person that you need to educate, that you need to place in an alternative to incarceration. There's just so much that can be done as a prosecutor.
I just know there's a DA in the western part of New York, and it was to raise the age, which I guess was passed, right, Mark?
Yes.
So, he was a little appalled, and even though he was Democrat and it was a Democrat governor that I was dealing with, he says, it makes like exactly what you think. Oh, prosecute, throw them in jail, we're going to pick up all these kids. And he says, it's not true. It's just exactly what you were saying. There is, in Jewish, you call Rahmanas, compassion. Some kid gets in trouble, he's using drugs, and he says, we don't just throw people in jail just for everything and pick people off the street.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't. And before the raise the age was passed, I believe it was passed just 2 weeks ago.
Well, are you in favor of it? Do you think it's a good idea?
The raise the age has a whole array of unknowns at this point. There are a lot of things that I'm not necessarily in favor of, but we'll see how it plays out.
Well, it's for nonviolent felonies, right?
Well,
Nonviolent crimes that 16 and 17-year-olds would be put into through family court.
we're talking 16,
Right.
17, right? And we're talking about misdemeanors will start in a youth court and then be diverted into a family court. So
Right.
that's a misdemeanor. But then we have nonviolent felonies and violent felonies. And with the nonviolent felonies,
Would be like drug sales for the most part.
Could be.
That would be your number one.
it could be drug sales, drug possession, things of that nature.
Unless it leads to a death, and then it's a violent felony.
Well, then it'll be violent. But the presumption, as I understand, if it's nonviolent, the presumption would be that that case would be transferred to the family court, unless a district attorney can show some extraordinary circumstances why it should not be transferred. And it's yet to be seen what these extraordinary circumstances can be. But if it's a violent felony, that case will begin in the youth court, and there could be a motion to transfer to a family court. But there are certain tests that have to be applied, as I understand, to determine whether or not a firearm or a deadly weapon was displayed or used, whether it involved sexual contact. So there's a test of certain elements, or whether there's a significant physical injury that was caused to another person. Elements such as that would keep these violent felonies out of the family court and keep them in the criminal court where they can be prosecuted. I think one of the major concerns about raise the age is that when an individual is charged with a misdemeanor, let's say, and that misdemeanor is transferred to a family court, district attorneys don't have the opportunity to see that history. So when the individual is charged with a criminal offense at age 19, we don't have the benefit of a fingerprint report on that individual. And so we don't have the benefit to see how many offenses that individual may have been involved in, or what programs they may have been sent to, whether it's a treatment facility or whatnot, or what the outcome of those programs were.
And this is being phased in, this raise the age also, isn't it?
It is.
So that you could see what the effect would be along the way, and it's just not taking 100% effect, let's say in 6 months or whatever. I mean, it's just over a period of 3 years, right?
It is, and again, unfortunately, it's just come into, it's just been passed,
right.
and I don't really have a good grip on all the ins and outs.
But the DA's Association, the lobby group, the lobbying arm that you're involved with, did they support this ultimately, or?
They did not support the raise the age.
Did they stay neutral?
They did not stay neutral
No, they were
either.
opposing it.
They were opposed to
Okay.
it.
You know, I'll tell you, I mean, I guess it's past, so it's a moot point. But one of the experience I have, you know, one of my 10 jobs, well, you know, they had to visit prisons. And usually there isn't any youth offenders. Thank God of Jews, they're not that bad. But one kid was from New York, and he came up there up in this area. They called me up, go visit him. Usually I don't have a regular thing. There's no Jews there. So, you know, again, I was naive a little bit. Youth offender, juvenile delinquent. You know, it's all right. So I go there. And I'm telling you, some of these kids were bigger than I was over here. They're huge. You know, so it goes the other way. You know, just think, oh, they're little kids, and what can they do? Some of these 16-year-old kids are bigger than you and I, you know, and stuff like that. They're tougher, they're streetwise. I mean, they've been born, you know, raised in these ghetto and criminal atmospheres. So
You don't know how tough he is.
Yeah.
Well, it is so true, because a very small percent of the teenagers wind up in prison. So they've got to be involved in some pretty bad stuff to get there in the first place. And as far as their size and their intimidation level and whatnot, just recently I indicted a case involved a 17-year-old, and I had a lot of questions, you know, why are you treating this person so harshly? And he was housed at Coxsackie Correctional, which is a maximum security prison. And what had happened was a correctional officer, a female correctional officer, was escorting another adolescent down the tier from a program back to that individual's cell. As she's passing a particular cell, the inmate inside, 17 years old, takes a cup of urine and just throws it up against her into her face. And then we find out a little bit more about this person. He's in there on a robbery offense, and we bring him into court for an arraignment.
Because of that assault on an officer?
Because of that charge against the officer, yes. And this person is 6'2" and 190 pounds. So there's this notion out there that these little kids who, you know, maybe my paper boy or the kid going to the prom, that's really not what we're dealing with. And most times when you're dealing with 16, 17, and 18-year-olds, when they get in trouble, prosecutors know that, hey, this guy's going the wrong direction. Let's get him on track here. So the first time round, as a general rule, we would adjourn the case in contemplation of dismissal. And basically that would be, look, kids, stay out of trouble for 6 months and this goes away in total line. If he gets in trouble a second time, as a general rule, what we would do is give him community service, maybe 50, 75 hours or 100 hours of community service. If he successfully completes, we reduce it down to a non-criminal offense. So we're very sensitive to the futures of these individuals, and we're very focused on getting them back on track. Now, if they commit a third criminal offense and it's nonviolent, then generally what we want to do is get this person on probation. And so we'll have them plead to a criminal offense, and then they may serve 3 years probation where they have to toe the line. Probation is not a walk in the park. And yet, according to the law prior to raise the age, that first criminal offense, should it be a misdemeanor, is mandatory youthful offender status. And so their record is sealed. If they commit another crime, I can see that offense. But if that individual applied for a job and the question was, were you ever convicted of a crime? Because he was a youthful offender, he could put down no. So there were protections in place for adolescents. And I think the goal is to protect adolescents, and we'll just see how this new raise the age fares out.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you also about the influx, and during the summer they have this, you almost double your population in Greene County, and a lot of them are Jews from Hunter, Tannersville. I mean, a huge influx of Jews come in to the Catskills.
It's true, so they do. And
I wanted to ask you, you know, how, you know, if anyone's ever gone to Tannersville, I mean, they literally forget how to drive. And they park wherever they feel like parking, and they do whatever they feel like they want to do in terms of, you know, the laws and the roads. And do you have a problem with the, well, maybe they're not Jews, but all tourists when they come up? But since we're on the Jewish View, I focus on the Jewish community. But
I don't see a problem with the Jewish community. I don't see a problem with the parking and whatnot. We have a very good police force up there. The Hunter Police Department, who works in conjunction with our sheriff's office, and they're pretty good. They're community-minded law enforcement, and they'll say, look, buddy, help us out here. If you're talking about road issues or things of that nature. Our bigger problem sometimes comes with the Country Fest or with Mountain Jam, where we get a huge influx of people from out of the area, and they come to these music festivals. And the concern there is the drugs that come into the community, that come into the county. So that usually spikes our court appearances, our arrests, and things of that nature. So that's more of a concern.
And that happens, what, at Hunter Mountain or Winter Mountain? Or
that's a Hunter Mountain event. Although they do run it very well. They have a lot of security.
Well, Hunter Mountain used to be owned by, what, the Slutsky family.
That's correct.
And they recently sold it.
They did, about a year and a half ago, I believe it was.
How is that, how did that transfer gone? I mean, in terms of, have you noticed any change in management, in terms of style, security, in terms of what they do in terms of their festivals? And
I think they run things very similar to the way they have been run. It was a pretty good organization with the Slutskys. I got to say, they did an excellent job. And certainly they were a huge contributor to our tax base in Greene County, and this new organization seems to run it very similar. So it's just a great organization up there.
And you live in Athens now, right?
I do. I live in the town of Athens.
So what's going on in Athens? That any Greek festivals going on there? No?
No, we have our music in the park during the summers. They have the park right on the Hudson River. So they have quite a bit going on down there.
What's the Greene County town that has the big Irish community?
That's the town of Durham.
Durham, okay.
Right. That's more of the center of Greene County.
Right. And Route 145 or something?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they have, for a week or so, they have this big Irish everything green in Durham.
It's true. It's true. And if you're
Irish,
Irish,
knows everything about
a
New
lot
York
of
State.
a lot of drinking. I mean, also.
There is.
So, do you have problems in terms of law enforcement? Do you see a spike in your DA's office in terms of prosecuting people?
We wind up with DWI offenses. It's not really horrific, though. We have motels and hotels out there, and they're within walking distance. So, we have some responsible Irish people coming up here.
Yeah, you should put a synagogue there. It's walking distance, right? So, but what now? You've lived your whole life in Greene County. I don't know how much you've gone up into the mountains or whatever, but do you see a change in the Jewish community in Greene County? Have you noticed over the years?
Getting bigger, smaller?
I believe it may be getting bigger because I know there was a period of time in the early 2000s and late 90s where some Jewish communities were purchasing resorts, old resorts, because the resort business certainly has dropped off. Unfortunately, Greene County was a huge resort area, and over the years there are fewer and fewer people looking for resorts to stay at resorts. And so Jewish organizations would purchase these resorts and make them camps for children, and bring children and families up to these camps. And it's actually very nice, and we'd see Jewish people walking from the camps into town and whatnot, and it's always a pleasure to see that.
But it's always peaceful. I mean, you haven't had any anti-Semitic issues or anything like that? It's been peaceful pretty much?
I believe it's rather peaceful in Greene County. We really haven't had none that I can even think of any anti-Semitic situations like that.
You would know.
Right.
You'd be the first to know.
Right.
We just lost a long-time district attorney, Saul Greenberg.
Yes.
Do you have any recollections about his tenure? 25 years, I believe he was DA here.
I know he's DA here in Albany County. I didn't know him personally. I know what I've heard, he just ran an excellent organization up here for a long period of time. So it's always sad to hear the loss.
Yeah, in his office, everything was file cabinets and paperwork and nothing electronic.
Right.
Is your office mainly electronic? Is it, or do you also have paper files still?
Well, we have paper files. The county is trying to move us toward paperless.
Yeah.
I don't see that. Unfortunately, I graduated before the computer age, so I'm somewhat computer illiterate, although a lot of my staff really like using the computer. Yeah. So we're kind of at a mix right now.
Yeah, you don't even update your Facebook page.
I don't personally, no. I have a secretary who does that and fills me in on what's on my own Facebook. So
well, maybe we could put this video from the show on your Facebook page.
That'd be okay.
Have to give me her name and to give her a call because you're useless in this.
Unfortunately, you're right.
See, I could say that to a DA now. Just don't go to Greene County anymore. So. What's your trepidation about going paperless? That files could get lost, corrupted, hacked. What's your trepidation?
Well, what happens when your computers go down, or what happens when you lose internet? If you're in a court and you want to pull something up or look into a file, I just like knowing I have that file with me and I could pull out any document that I need. I keep my files very organized with many folders inside. And for me to flip through a computer, I mean, personally, I need quite a bit of training to feel comfortable.
Well, that's something, maybe you should, just as an individual, you really should go through and maybe offer it to other people. You don't have a county executive, but you have a county administrator, right?
We do, yes.
And maybe that's a program the county administrator could could do, because you wouldn't be the only one in Greene County of an elected official or a bureaucrat who might need the training.
That's
he's
true.
the DA, so then in any case, he's got the underling people, you know, that
I know that, but
people,
but-
that's where you have other people to.
you know,
to
but you know,
help
like,
out.
you know, Kate Hogan up in Warren County, you know, your compatriot there, she prosecutes the cases herself. They have this boat trial going on now.
Right.
But do you actually go into the courtroom, or do you have the, you know, deputy district attorneys that do this?
I actually go in the courtroom, and I prosecute cases along with my assistants. So I've had a number of trials already. So yes, I'm very active in the courts as well as my assistants.
Why do you feel, how many assistants do you have?
I have 5 assistants. It's a very small office, and I just don't think in a county such as Greene, you can sit there at the helm and just give out the orders, you prosecute this case, you prosecute that case. We all work together. We have weekly meetings every Friday. We talk about the cases. I always assign 2 people to a trial, and then we work together on these trials. So the more serious offenses, the more serious trials, as a general rule, I take upon myself to work with one of my assistants to prosecute. So
Most cases just don't go to trial anyway.
most do not.
All right, so I have to ask you this question. We just had a trial here a sentencing in Albany County, and it's someone that Rabbi and I know, but you know, the DA, the Attorney General indicted him on 27 counts, and when he got sentenced, it was 3 counts, and it was like all 3 were concurrent. I mean, how do you go from having a 27-count indictment in a plea bargain to only say, oh, these 3 out of 20, so 24 of them weren't even valid, or that we're going to dismiss 24 of them? I mean, why the overkill? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I could understand if it was the other way, where you had, you know, 27-count indictment and 24 of them were part of the plea bargain, and you got rid of 3. But this, you know, what's the philosophy there from the prosecution's point of view?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the case.
I
you're
know that, and
speaking
I didn't
of.
bring up the name, and I didn't want to bring it up, but I'm just talking about in general, that seems to be what happens, is that there's a indictment of many, of many counts, and then when there's a plea bargain, it comes down to just a few.
I think it all depends on the type of case it is, the type of individual that you're dealing with. If you have a drug case, let's say, and there are a number of counts of possession because the person was under your watchful eye for a period of time, you may indict on numerous counts of possession, but in your mind, your goal is, well, we want this person to serve 8 years in prison. If you take a number of counts of possession and you run them consecutive, you could be building up a timetable of maybe 30, 40, 50 years. If that's appropriate, that's what it should be. But it all depends on the case itself. It depends on who your district attorney is, the input of probation. A lot of work goes into determining what a sentence should be. It's not simply an arbitrary call.
All right, so do you have different divisions in the DA's office, like Special Victims Unit and crime scenes and other things like, you know?
We don't.
No?
We're just too small for that. I'll have an assistant who will always rely on when we're talking about DWIs or DWAI drugs, an assistant who will always bring in when we're talking about a narcotics case. So we have some that focus more in a particular area, but that may not be the person who will be trying the case as well. So we all kind of share in the various offenses.
So are you, when they say law, the TV show Law and Order, are you the law or the order?
Well, I think you got to be a little both.
So, okay, so I was, you know, but I guess the district attorney's office would be the order, right? You're keeping,
Right,
and then
the
the
law.
police, the sheriff would be the law?
Well, sure. The
And then
sheriff
the
sort of-
DA would be the order, right? Keeping order, of making sure that it gets done right?
Well, we work hand in hand with our police agencies, the sheriff's office, state police, and the local police agencies. Which is really nice because they're at a point where when they get involved in a serious case, they call us up before an arrest is made, and we work with one another to determine whether or not we have enough to make an arrest, whether there should be more investigation. And then when we come to the conclusion that it's time for an arrest, the police agency will make the arrest, they'll turn the case over to my office, and then we'll certainly proceed with the prosecution. And again, each case is different, and some cases deserve some serious prison time. And some cases require an alternative to prison, maybe education, maybe a treatment facility, something of that nature. But we're very sensitive to the nature of the defendant that we are dealing with.
What's the size of the jail in Greene County?
Our jail holds 55 right now.
55 people, that's
55
it?
people.
Inmates, yeah.
But we've had over 100 inmates, and we've had to farm out numerous inmates over the years.
You don't do double bunking?
We don't do double bunking, no. Recently, it seems that there's been a drop-off in the number of inmates, but we generally send inmates to Columbia County, or we'll send them up to Albany County.
Albany will love you for that.
Oh, they have. We've helped them out quite a bit.
Yeah.
But they help us out by taking our inmates.
But isn't it expensive?
It's very expensive.
So shouldn't you be building a larger jail?
There's been discussion about building a jail for the past 15 to 20 years.
Keep talking about it.
Well, we've really been bearing down over the last couple of years on the issue of the jail. We're to the point now where our Greene County jail is one of the oldest jails in the state of New York. It's in very poor condition, and we have blueprints for a jail. We've come that far. We have a situation where the state of New York has donated 50 acres to Greene County, right next to the Coxsackie Correctional Facility, for use for the construction of a jail. And we're at the point now that the question is, how much money should we spend on this jail? How large of a facility should it be? And how many additional rooms, not including cells, should the jail contain?
I see. But the cells should have at least 150, right?
Well,
because you want to take in from other counties.
Well, there are not too many counties that are still looking for housing.
But federal, right? Don't the feds supply the jails with inmates?
They basically, as I understand, they may supply up to 10 inmates to Greene County, which is not a huge amount.
So what's the recommendation? How many cells in the new jail?
The recommendation by the outfit that conducted the study was 130 cells.
Okay.
The community feels that 80 may be more appropriate.
What?
Police agencies feel that maybe around 100 to 110.
Well, that splits the difference between 130 and 80, yeah, okay.
But we're also looking at the cost. The cost for 130 cells is $52 million.
Right.
And the county, there's a group of people within the county that feel that if you're going to spend money on a jail, the cost should not exceed $30 million.
But you're bonding it.
Well,
so what's the difference? I mean, you're just paying it out over
$20 million.
Yeah, but once you're paying that much, I mean, it's within your debt limit. Your debt ceiling isn't that.
Well, some people have a huge problem with $20 million. It's not a drop in a bucket. It is a good chunk of change.
What's your budget of your office, of the DA's office? What's your budget?
My budget is probably about $800,000.
$800,000?
Right. I believe that's about it.
Well, that's why you think 20 million's a lot of money.
That's right. That's right.
So do you lobby the county legislature for more money? Is 80 million just... Is 80,000 very, just...
800,000.
800,000, is that?
We could certainly use some additional money in our budget. I'm very fortunate. I have 5 assistants who are really dedicated to the job of prosecution. I mean, that's what they love to do.
But you could certainly use a couple more, right?
Certainly could.
So what's your ask for the county legislature?
Oh, it'd be nice if I could have raises for each of the assistants and maybe another 1 or 2 assistants.
Right, so $1 million.
That million would be nice.
$1 million would be nice, a round number, right? It's
Right,
like, okay.
right.
Well,
Easy for you to ask him.
It's easy. I'm scheduled for July to present my budget and
Okay.
make requests that I believe are appropriate.
all right.
And so that is the plan, actually.
Ask for, like you put in, so many indictments and then you settle for this. You've put in so much money, ask for this, ask for the $1 million when they give you 950,000,
You're right.
Look
you there.
All right,
It's all a
Bring
flea
your bargain.
bargain. It's all a flea bargain.
we're out of time, but it's, you're doing good work and keep it up. And I know it's a difficult job, like Mark says, a little bit of law. You want to prosecute people. On the other hand, you want to be fair. So it's a very hard balance. I know in Judaism also, you have to have a balance in things you want to. There's laws, but you have to think of the individual also. So keep up the good work and success with what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Keep up the good work. Much success.
Thank you.